National elections in Brazil are just around the corner, so I've decided to record a series of short videos to talk about some key aspects of Brazilian politics. I want to reach foreigners who might be interested in what's going on in Brazil and how it could affect the rest of the world. I'm Guilherme Casarões, a political scientist and university professor, and in this first video, I'll introduce you to our incumbent president, Jair Bolsonaro. Many of you might have heard about his radical and rather violent approach to politics, his lack of diplomatic skills, and his disastrous response to COVID-19. While this is all true, there is more to Bolsonaro than international headlines suggest. First, the basics. Jair Bolsonaro is a far-right populist that got elected in 2018 on an anti-establishment, anti-left, and pro-market platform. You might think of him as a combination of Donald Trump's bad manners, conspiratorial thinking and Christian nationalist rhetoric, Hungary's Viktor Orban's authoritarian leanings, and Venezuela's Hugo Chávez's militaristic pride. Most importantly, though, is his open disdain for democracy. Since the 1990s, Bolsonaro, an unremarkable lawmaker, has attracted the spotlight by publicly defending the legacy of Brazil's military regime, praising torture and violence, and vowing to dissolve Congress if he was president. Not to mention his penchant for verbally assaulting political adversaries and minorities. Over the last decade, though, Bolsonaro became a true populist phenomenon. Riding the social media wave, which in Brazil includes WhatsApp, a paradise for offenders and fake news spreaders, he successfully tapped into the average Brazilian's deepest fears, from urban violence to corruption, as well as prejudices, from sexual diversity to racial equality. If smartphones are Bolsonaro's sword, then the Bible is his shield. Despite his middle name being Messiah, Bolsonaro is certainly not your model of a pious Christian. But he has swiftly mobilized the triad, God, nation, and family, to reach out to all kinds of conservative voters, while ignoring partisan alliances in the name of draining the swamp of Brazilian politics. The formula worked. Against the odds, he won the 2018 presidential race with more than 57 million votes. Even with all electoral prowess, Bolsonaro hasn't given up on his plan to undermine democracy from within. I'll talk about his authoritarian scheme in another video. In any case, one must concede that Bolsonaro has inherited a divided and impoverished country whose politics was plagued by corruption scandals and whose economy was on the ropes. But rather than fixing the structural problems of the country, Bolsonaro has bet on populist solutions for Brazil, which range from the completely useless, as reducing taxes for jet skis and video games, to the outright atrocious, like deregulating gun control and relaxing environmental protection laws, all in the name of freedom, an overarching idea that became his administration's fourth ideological pillar, together with Christianity, patriotism, and traditional family values. While his track record is far from impressive, Bolsonaro still enjoys the support of roughly a third of voters. Not all of them are reactionary or authoritarian, of course, but the thing is that the president is a skilled populist, and therefore a master of forging conspiratorial narratives, spreading fake news, and shifting the blame for the country's problems to his declared enemies. Political opponents, including former allies, the mainstream media, artists and scholars, international organizations and NGOs, and above everything else, communism. Hate, fear, and resentment have fueled Bolsonaro's successful trajectory, and they are still his main weapon to get re-elected. But Bolsonaro's got two obstacles along the way: a dwindling economy on the one hand, and the persisting popularity of his arch-rival, former President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, on the other. I'll address these and other issues in my next videos.